What's up guys, Shane here, Fugatech 3D Printing, and today we've got a box here from GearBest and it contains the Anycubic Kossel. So I'm going to put it together. Well, we're going to look through the box, I'll put it together and see if we can't get it printing. Welcome back. So again, GearBest here to the rescue to provide me another 3D printer to check out. This is the Anycubic Kossel 3D printer. So it is a Delta style 3D printer. If you're unfamiliar with that, there is one right here behind me. And the Delta style printer is has totally different kinematics than the standard i3 that most everyone is familiar with. It is more of a tower printer and less of a rep style, so back and forth style. So only the actual extruder is moving as it's printing. Your build surface stays level, it stays perfectly still. You actually get faster prints with this because there's less moving parts. Advantages and disadvantages to it. Disadvantages is that they are severely underused in the public, so not many people actually know about them or support them or can work on them. And I'm learning a lot. I've been working a ton on mine back there, so hopefully with what I've learned with that, I'll be able to do something decent with this. So let's just open this up, check out what's in the box first. We'll do a short little time lapse of me putting this together and hopefully we can get it printing. Now the nice thing about these kits out of China is the packing, to be honest. They do pack things fairly well. So we've got a little over a 1/4 inch sheet of foam here first, and then we have the plethora of parts. Now, a lot of the parts here are very similar to the Anycubic i3 Mega, which I previously looked at, so you can check up here if you want to watch that video. And so I was pleased to see that. I like the parts that are in that printer. I was glad to see that here. We have a very nice color manual booklet that came here, and I actually have the pulley version. There is also the linear version and the linear plus version. So there are 3 different variations of this. This is the lowest cost model that they have, which I believe is less than 200 bucks, but I'll confirm that at the end whenever we get there. So we do have a nice thing there. And what else do we have here? Oh, another nice thing that I do like about Anycubic as a company is this. A full roll of black PLA. Not many companies are sending full rolls, and the fact that they are and you have a ton to actually play with is really nice, so that I can actually use this entire roll to just dial this in if I have to and not feel bad about it because you got this with the printer. Filament costs at a minimum $10 a roll, up to $20. Again, they don't pay that much, but still you're getting $10 to $20 right here just in filament. And then parts. So they are using injection molded corners here, which is really nice to see. They are not tapped at all, but still the fact that they are injection molded, you're getting a lot stronger parts. They're not 3D printed like the previous Delta that I had worked on. We're using a 2020 T-slot extrusion, not V-slot at least, for what these are here. We've got the 3 uprights. There's a lot of extrusion to go this. So this is also a complete kit printer. This is not put together. This is not kind of like the CR10 where it came in 2 pieces, slapped it together, add the control box, you're off to the races. No, this is a complete kit. So you're building everything pretty much from scratch. We have their power supply. So this is the newest power supply they have, which is a switched laptop adapter basically. So I love that they have the switch in there. A lot of them don't, or they're just actually just cut off and you're directly attaching it. I don't like that, but this is going to be 12 volt, 6 amps. So really not that much power is required to run this printer. So here we have the Tri-Gorilla MKS style board here. It's using the A4988 drivers. It says here also the firmware has already been uploaded to it, so I don't have to do that. And then we do have 2 SD cards, which is the exact same as the i3 Mega, and one has a micro SD, which is unlabeled. I believe that one came with a 2 gig, but again, it does not have a label, so they're buying this direct and is unbranded. That's okay. I haven't had any problems with it. Some people do, but again, mileage may vary. We've got a whole box bag here of different parts, and our tools are in here, so we'll need that. And then the effector in this is metal, and then the actual what are they called, the guides for each of the actual rails that are going on, those are all injection molded parts as well. Pulleys, bunch of fans, timing belts, wires. Then we have motors. So we have one beastie motor, and then we have 1, 2, 3 smaller ones, all NEMA 17s, not sure what that larger one is for. I'm guessing it's going to be for the extruder. This is the actual extruder housing that's going to go on the effector. Again, metal, which is nice to see. They are using a E3D V5 style hot end. I don't know why they're still using this style, but so be it. I haven't had any issues on mine other one except for what I did to it. So again, it's just a hot end. We've got some cabling here, and then we have the LCD, which is just the 2004 style LCD. And then we have, an actual metal housing mount for that LCD. That's nice to see. Again, not 3D printed. I like seeing non 3D printed parts. USB adapter and a power adapter to take it from American to the UK, French, whatever it is. Different style. There's that, and then on to the bottom here. Okay, so we have more effector parts here. So these are what actually are going to go on the rails that slide up and down, not effector parts, but the guide parts. I don't know the actual term for those. All injection molded. We have the rods that connect those to the actual effector. We have the wheels, a random metal part for something, a glass plate, something here, some type of separator or something thing, I don't know. Glass plate is nice, and then we have a sheet of Anycubic Build-Tack style build surface, and then we have their acrylic spool holder, which I don't really like. The hardware for that, I don't like those. And then we have here all the hardware, which is labeled by size. Nice to see that. Makes it easier to know what's going on and where to find parts. Ooh. All right, and then we have some more 2020 and 2040 extrusions. Now this is all raw cut stuff. So inside there are lots of flakes of aluminum. So I'm actually going to open it right here in the box so that these flakes don't get all over my floor and go into my foot or my kids' feet, because that would be a bad thing. To confirm, that is it. And I was wrong, there are no 2040 extrusions, it is all just 2020 extrusions. Now I am a little upset to see that this version, again being the cheapest, it does not have a heated bed. So I'm a little sad by that, because I was really hoping to see a heated bed. Now it is using their newer effector, which I heard the old one was kind of shoddy. But this one, there's not going to be any, you're only printing PLA with this. Again, no heated bed. So their assembly guide here is for all the different versions, and it goes through that. But I do wish they would have specified which version you're going to get, or which I would have gotten. I just knew I was getting the printer. I was kind of hoping it was going to be the heated bed version, at least their medium one, the linear version, which comes with a heated bed. Anyways, I'm going to run through this now and give you a little bit of a time lapse. Again, it's kind of boring to watch these builds. If I end up coming up to anything, I'll let you know. I asked in the Facebook group, no one had said anything of note that I know to be aware of building this. So definitely not using Allen wrenches for this. I'm going to go ahead and use this Pittsburgh Pro set that I got from Harbor Freight. There are several sets also that are decent looking on Amazon, which I'll put link down to those. I highly recommend picking up one of these. These are better than any Allen wrenches you're going to get in a kit. So pick one of these up to start your build, and off to the races we go. Alright, I'm back at it, and it has been a week since I started this original video, and that is because I have had a ton of issues with this printer. Now the biggest issue was the actual power supply. So right now it's powered on using the little power brick that comes with the printer and just plugs straight in with a DC jack right into the Tri-Gorilla board, which worked for 5 seconds and then it stopped. So what I had to do is go ahead and put on this 20 amp power supply that I had laying around. That's actually the one I'm using for the Hypercube, but it's not working yet. So I threw it on here for a while and this worked great. Well, then I recently, like 2 days ago, switched back to the smaller power supply and then it's working again. How long it's gonna work, I don't know, but I literally would start a print and it would just stop printing mid-print, just totally reboot on its own. I made sure it wasn't connected to the USB on the computer. I reformatted the SD card. I tried a different SD card, and every time it was happening at different points. I wasn't sure what the problem was at all. So it either was power or it was cooling on the drivers and the drivers are overheating. So I added a controller fan, which was labeled as controller fan, so it's fan_1 on the board, and I kind of zip tied it to the board to blow on the drivers, and that still didn't do anything. So like I said, I threw this on there and then it started printing great. I've got a lot of prints here to show for that, at least for what I've done in tests in the past week. Now again, I've hooked it up here now and I just printed this benchy right before I did this video just to see if it was going to work, and it worked fine. I don't know, but also you can see there's a fair bit of changes. We can actually see all the changes because it's so high up. So first you're going to notice the new feet that I went ahead and made. So I took a model on Thingiverse just so I could get the profile of the curve on this, and I totally mutilated that and made this for some racquetballs. So it's a little wobbly, but when it's printing it doesn't barely move at all. It is so much quieter now. This is such a loud printer because the plastic and the plastic from these corner brackets and the 2820 extrusion is right on the desk. The vibrations are ridiculous. It is so loud. So if I would either say print these out, or if you have, my kids have these little foam mats like the teeth on the sides linked together, throw it on one of those, put it on something to get it off the bare plastic and bare metal on your surface, and you'll be so much better. I'm probably gonna throw some dampers on this just because again it is still pretty loud and pretty annoying. In order to tension up these belts, these springs, don't use those. Those have way too much play in them. I printed out some of these little waves, and these are what apparently people use on the Ultimakers. That's what it's labeled as. So I'll link for these in order to tighten up your belt, and now using 2 of them, it worked out great because I got as tight as I could by hand. Using those, it worked out great. Here on the extruder, I went ahead and added a little clip to help manage this cable, which lowers down here off to the side. I went ahead and reversed the direction of the extruder. So now instead of it being down here and the filament being on the ground and it feeds up in, I flipped it around, and here on top you can see there is the filament holder that I printed out, which actually works out fantastic. And I had another PTFE push fitting, so I put that on top, a little bit of PTFE tubing up here just to kind of keep it in line with the printer. And I have one of the Make Anything knobs here on the side as well, because those are just amazing for feeding or removing filament. Makes life so much easier. And I flipped the motor upside down so the cable comes down. I had some leftover 2020 insert, like the, kind of cleaned it up, and that's hiding the entire longer motor cable that I had. So I had a lot of the parts on hand, and it has helped quite a bit. Now the other big issue, aside from the power supply and whatever it was doing and kind of evening up these other things, most of these are just nice to have. The belts are must have, and yeah, the belt's the must have. That's really the only thing that you really need. You can zip tie this cable, but this print is nice, but you need to put these belt tensioners on there to get a nice good tight belt. The other thing I have on here is I have 3 of these knobs that help me level the bed. I spent a 5-hour live stream, and if you guys want to watch that ridiculousness, you can click up here and watch it. But literally it's 5 hours, it's over 5 hours long. I was up until 3:30 in the morning, I think it was, almost 4 o'clock in the morning working on that with a bunch of people. So I thank everyone who participated in that live stream to try and get this thing level. I tried probably 4 different versions of Marlin. Didn't work out. So recently, Tim, who runs TH3D Studio, so he runs this little 3D printing company, he and I got on Facebook chat for about 2 hours, and we built Marlin 1.1.8. I say we, mostly him, but I did make some changes after he and I talked, and I shored everything up. And that was finally able to get me to get this thing level. I didn't quite, a little bit was my fault. I didn't quite understand on how to ensure the carriages were the same, because a lot of the guides out there, I don't know, there's not a lot of good guides out there, in my opinion. So when you bring this down to each corner here, so this is in front of the X tower, and you touch it down, you need to ensure that whatever it reads in Simplify 3D or Prana Face, that whatever it reads there is the same as in front of the Y tower and in front of the Z tower, all the way down. And then you see what it is in the middle, adjust your smooth rod offset, do an M502 and M500 to that loads from the default, so that loads what you just put in there into the active memory and the active of the controller. I'm not sure the correct terminology for that. And then M500 saves it, so now that new firmware that you just flashed is saved, and that is the active firmware on the printer now. Or that's the active settings, I should say, that's on the printer. And then you run the test again. You kind of move it around back and forth using the G-code commands or using the the X, Y, and Z commands on the whatever tool you're using. Again, I was using Simplify 3D, sometimes use Prana Face. It is what it is. And then use that, then you finally get this thing to level out. I got it pretty doggone close, except for a few points here and there, but using this 3-corner bed leveling system worked like a charm. It's a little finicky once you finally get it. The bed is not 100% there solid, but seeing as the bed doesn't move, only the hot end moves. Unless the hot end was to crash into the part, it'll be just fine. So, I mean, a lot of this is going to go into the review later that I'm doing, and I still have more mods I want to do to this, but we're talking about some of the parts that came off of this. But I just wanted you guys to fully understand the experience and how hard it was for me to get this. I've watched a lot of review videos about this printer because I'm like, why am I having such a hard time? I've seen a mixed bag out there. Some people say they leveled it in 20 minutes and they were off to the races. Some people said that they had to search far and wide for firmware until they finally could get it to level. There's manual auto bed leveling that you can do with this as well. There's a lot of different ways. There's more than one way to skin a cat, basically. And for me, it took a while finally understand all the kinematics of this, because it's very different than a Cartesian style printer or a Core XY or an HBot, anything. This is far and wide different, so it does take a lot more tuning than any machine I have here. But it did get tuned, unlike the other Delta back there, the Triangle Labs crap one. It did get there. Now let's look at some quick parts. Well, actually, before we do that, so this is the spool holder that it comes with. It's the exact same as the Anycubic i3 Mega. It is 4 acrylic parts and this tube. Now the tube that I'm using works with the spool holder that I am using up top, which was great. And there's a few things I want to change on here. I have a new blower, so this will mount up underneath, and this brings the jets, so the air will actually flow in. Oh, I would say a good, 270 degrees. I mean, probably about this quarter of it is not covered there, but I can at least see my tool where it's at in the front. I can still see the nozzle, which you really like to see. Okay, so I'll show you some close-ups of these. So I did some calibration cubes, which actually came out really, really well. The only real issue I saw was a little bit of ghosting, which was actually pretty minor. So I think I'm just going to lower my acceleration a smidge. Right now I think it's set to 3,000. So I think if I lower that down maybe 2,500 or 2,000, that'll work a little bit better. Jerks at 5s, I think that's pretty good, and that's an acceptable amount. But those came out okay. Then I went ahead and printed, I printed 2 of these teal, I guess this teal colored, if you're turquoise, whatever you want to call this. This is the Toner Plastics PLA, which actually is amazing filament. And it came out really, really nice. There was a few little issues here and there, but nothing major. Overall, the printer printed it very well. I had to work on my extrusion multiplier a little bit. I think I'm sitting at 1.01 in Simplify 3D for this. So if I calculate my E-steps a little bit more, might be able to get there, but the stock 96.8, I think is what it's at, brings it like really, really close to being exact what it should be. So I left it at that, up my extrusion multiplier a little bit, and then life was good. And then, as I said, this black one I just recently printed right before I filmed this video, just to make sure, or just to retest this little dinky power supply if it actually would still work or not. And then this part here was printed on the printer as well, and this actually came out amazing. And this is one of the feet that I printed for the bodice. I wanted it in black, but since I already had this filament printed, or I already had this filament loaded, I figured I would just do a test print with this and see how it came out. The walls, amazingly smooth at 0.2 millimeter layer height. They filled in the top really well. The bottom layers are good. They're not great, but they are good. So I think if I up my extrusion multiplier or the layer height a little bit and the layer width, make it a little bit closer, a little bit fatter first layer, I can kind of butter that out a little bit more, just because I can't, you just got to tweak these a little bit. The deltas are so hard to level. They really are. They're magic. They're really what they are. They are unicorn magic and all that jazz. But layers, awesome. And also retractions are a little bit off still. I think I'm sitting at 5 millimeters right now. I'll tune that a little bit more over time. For when I finally do a final review on this, I will have that finally tuned in. But otherwise, it's an okay printer. But man, does it take a while to tune in. I mean, it's under 200 bucks. I think when they sent this to me, the current sale price is like $170. It changes here and there. I'll put a link and a coupon down below for GearBest, which is who sent this to me, to check it out. And if you guys want to purchase it, you can go down there. It does work. I can say this over the other Delta I have. It does work. It does print rather amazingly. But golly, is it a beast to tune in, and you really just need to dedicate time and decide, yes, I'm going to get this tuned to the best it can and go forth with that. Other than that, I mean, the guide was good. I can't complain about the guide. I liked it. It went through everything as well as it should, tells you how to level the bed, and I mean, it walks you through how to adjust if your parts are not exactly, you know, if you're doing 20 by 20 cube, make sure it's that way. If it's not, it tells you how to fix that in this printed guide that comes with it. So I like when they actually come with that kind of printed guide. Now the mount for the actual controller board, the directions are different. In here, it tells you to mount it right underneath this LCD panel. No. Mount it off to the left or the right. Pick a side, doesn't matter. I mounted mine between the X and the Z. So on the left side of the printer where you're looking at the front, and there is a different mounting system for the board, and this extra color sheet is actually what you're going to use for that. Don't use what's in the guide. That needs to be updated. And the other tip that everyone gave me in the Facebook group was to turn the motors underneath, the X, Y, and Z motors, 90 degrees so that the ports in the guide tell you to put them up. You need to mount them to the side, especially if you're not going to use these, you're going to use the stock parts in order to mount it. The cables are going to hit the bed. So you want to make sure you turn those to the 90 degrees to the side. I made them all going the same way. That way it just looks a little bit better underneath, and it worked out well. So again, this is just the original unboxing and printing. It just took a lot longer, a lot more tuning, and this video is way longer than I wanted it to be. Hence why I cut out the time lapse, just because, for the sake of time. But again, we'll put this thing through its paces. It's printing out pretty doggone well so far. We'll see how it ends up doing over some extensive testing. And that's it, guys. Again, if you want to check out this printer, down below is going to be a link to GearBest, who sent me this, so I appreciate them sending this to me to check out. And if you think you want to take the dive into a Delta and you want to sacrifice many hours of your life, check it out. Again, some people get it quick. I did not. But if you want to check it out, there's a link down below where you guys can purchase it. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you find this video useful, whether or not you're gonna buy this or not. And if you do, I hope I provided some insight into helping you through your build. If you guys want to stay in touch with what I'm doing, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you really want to stay in touch that much more, hit the bell icon. That way you get an email notification anytime I upload new content. If you want to donate to my channel to help me out do things here, there's a lot of ways to do it down below. There's a Patreon link. You can donate me on a monthly basis. There's Buy Me a Coffee and a few other ones down there that you can directly donate to me on a one-time basis. And then there's a bunch of affiliate links down there. Do your daily shopping with Amazon, GearBest to buy this printer, lots of other vendors down there. So check all that out. And I thank you guys so much for watching this video. So until next time, happy printing.